So again, if you guys have this chart out, the top row, this is actually, guys, stop talking, please. This is the first thing we should always try to do before we try to do any other kind of factoring, is always look for a GCF. Now, on the test, I am going to tell you guys when you guys need to factor by a GCF. So that should be the first thing you're going to do. And a GCF is when we find the common number that we can divide out of all of these. So I look at these two numbers and I ask myself, what could divide into both numbers? 8 and 6, what can divide in? 2. And then how many m's are common? 2. There's 2 of them, m to the second. So it's like I'm dividing that out, and then I'm going to write whatever's left over. So 8 divided by 2 is 4, and m to the third divided by m squared is just going to be m. Guys, can you stop, please? Negative 6 divided by 2 is going to be a negative 3, and then the m squareds are going to cancel. And now we know we're done because this can't be factored any further. It doesn't have any it doesn't have any common factors. There's no common variable that can come out, so we just stop now. Okay? Now the next one, it says to use reverse FOIL, but I'm not going to tell you that. I'm hoping you guys can look at the chart and tell which type this is. So example 10 there, looking at it, if you guys notice, this is the second column on our chart. There's no GCF. Why is that not right? Is that it? Doesn't look like it. That doesn't look right. I don't know. We'll just go with this. So hopefully you know what I'm talking about. So we're looking at this, the second column down. This is the type of factoring that I think a lot of you guys probably didn't mind doing. I know since it has this x squared in the front, it has to be x and x. That's why I know to use this method.
This is
Yeah, so we're going to multiply to negative 28, but add to negative 12. So multiply to negative 28, but add to negative 12. Yeah, and we just have to be careful though, because we want it to be a negative 12. So it's going to be a negative 14 and a positive 2. So we have to find the set of factors that works for both parts. It's like a puzzle piece that fits in both spots. Okay? All right. Our next one tells us to factor by grouping. Guys, we know it's grouping because it's 4 terms. And grouping, again, is our last column on the chart. So again, if you guys were gone and didn't get these notes, you'll definitely want to copy this chart down from somebody because you get to use it on the test, and it even has an example there for you. And what we did with this is we broke this into 2 parts. So since it has 4 terms, we're going to use grouping. And I'm going to look to see what can I pull out of those first 2 terms. So 6 and 15, we take out a 3x squared. So that's what I'm dividing out of each of these. And I'm dividing 6 by 3 and I get 2. And it's going to be an x, because x is the third over x squared, minus 5 over, or 15 over 3 because 5, and then these x squareds will cancel. Out of the second half, we're going to take out a 5. And so that'll be 2x minus 5. And now we have the same thing twice. So we get to rewrite this. So please don't stop at this step. We have this 2x minus 5 we take out. And then we're left with 3x squared plus 5. Now, a good thing to check with these types of problems is look at this, though, and try to see if we can factor any further. But if you look at this, nothing comes out of this first one. This one has a squared, but it's not the difference of squares because it's addition 3 and 5 are perfect squares, so you can't use that. So that's not used there. So go into our next little type here. One of the things I wouldn't mind if you guys added to your chart if you think it would be helpful to you, adding perfect squares. Like that's not something that comes to mind when those come up. I want to put those on there. So our next type, it says factor using this X factor. Now, one of the things I want to remind you is always still look for a GCF first. And I'm going to say that because on this one, there is one. So I don't want you to get too far ahead of me and not realize there's a GCF there first. So this first one here doesn't have a GCF. Nothing comes out of 6, 1, and 12. So it says to use this X factor. So this was our method that probably is the toughest one. Please know that it's not like every question is going to be this type. So if this is the one you're not good at least do as much as you can with it. We take this first and last term and multiply together. I'm going to warn you, these are going to be some big numbers. So 6 times a negative 2 is a negative 72. It's going to have a lot of factors. But then at the bottom, we're going to put 1x. So I'm multiplying to get a negative 72, but adding to get 1, positive 1. That tells me the numbers are probably really close to one another. Can you think of anything that multiplies to give you a negative 72, but adds to give you 1? Number that goes into 72. You hopefully should have. 2 goes into it, 1 goes into it. It's a bigger number. Because it'd be 2 and 36, I think. 3 goes into it, it'd be 3 and 24. That's not it. 9 and 8. So we're going to do a negative 8, a positive 9. You should say your answer louder so all of us can hear, not just Ryan. So, Ryan said the answer is negative 8 and positive 9. Good job, Ryan. So I like putting the bigger number first. So 9x minus 8x. Those two together multiply to give me a negative 72. But when I add them, they give me a positive 1. Now, what we do with that is we use those to split this middle term up. So guys, this is the part where a lot of people lose this type of problem. Guys, stay with me here. So the first part doesn't change. The next one becomes a positive 9 and a negative 8. And then I just bring down the last term. So I do not change the first or last term. I just change that middle term. Now we're ready to do grouping. So we're going to group this into 2 parts. Out of 6x to the second and 9x, I'm going to take out a 3x. And I tell you, the more practice you'll do, you'll get better at this. Out of the next one, I want them to match. So I know a negative 8 has to become a 2. So I'm going to divide it by a negative 4. So I take out that 2x plus 3, and I'm left with 3x minus 4. So I have to go that step further here. Now this next one, I wanted you guys to notice there's a GCF first. And what it's going to do, it's going to make sure your answer is correct, but it's also going to save you a bunch of time. So a 2 goes into everything. So I divide everything by 2. Once I do that, this inside part, I don't have to use that x thing anymore for it. I can use that easy type of factory where I multiply to get 14, negative 14, but add to get negative 8. So this one's a little bit easier, but now that I'm looking at it, I don't know if this one works. Did I divide something wrong? I don't think so. So there's nothing that will work. So this is as factored as it gets. So if you cannot find something that multiplies to give you one and adds to give you the other, you can just say that I had to stop there. That's it. I'm not going to give you guys many problems that do that. Most likely everything on your test should be factorable. All right, let's finish up with these last two. Stick with me here. I'm going to give you guys a big chunk of time to get working on homework. These last two are these perfect squares. So it's two terms. And so again, on our chart, it's going to be that first column. So the first column there. So two sets of parentheses. What times what gives me 25? 5 and 5. Then something times itself is going to give me 4m to the second. 2m and 2m. And then we just put a plus and minus between them. So this one's called difference of squares. You don't have to know that name, but it's that first column there. All right, our last one here. Now 7 is not a perfect square, nor is 63. So we have to remember that we can do something first. What can they both be divided by? 7. So take out that 7 first. Once I take the 7 out, then this problem does become a difference of squares. So I want to multiply to get x squared. So it'll be x and x. I want to multiply to get -9. +3 and -3. Very good. Okay. So, again, if you guys weren't here last class, I would highly suggest taking notes with this note sheet. If you do not have this chart to use, you do not get to use it. You can't expect me to provide that for you. You guys get to copy it. So I'd highly recommend doing that.